why would we want to expand NATO right up to Vladimir Putin's borders?
It was already there. It was already there. They didn't invade because of anything to do with NATO. Why do we keep spreading that talking point? 2014 wasn't in response to NATO. It was in response to Yanukovych being out. Ukraine wasn't any closer to getting in NATO in 2022 when they did the full-scale invasion. It's just a lie. There's a lot Russian talking point.
Destiny, the woke streamer, had an absolute meltdown after Dave Smith absolutely torches an entire panel of woke idiots. It's common for Destiny to do this, but this is one of the most unhinged meltdowns that I have seen from him. And once again, Dave Smith absolutely cooking a whole bunch of woke weirdos, including the woke streamer Destiny. Let's get into this clip here, where Dave Smith absolutely destroys and debunks Destiny's entire worldview, and Destiny has a unhinged meltdown because of it. Let's get into it.
Through Boris Johnson told Ukraine not to negotiate with Russia at the very beginning of the war when they had a deal worked out.
This is a 100% pure Russian propaganda bullshit device talking point.
Why would we want to expand NATO right up to Vladimir Putin's borders?
It was already there. They didn't invade because of anything to do with NATO. Why do we keep spreading that talking point?
It's already expanded.
Yes. Russia doesn't really like NATO expansion that much, sure, but the reason why they don't like it because Russia likes to rape and pillage its neighbors when it's convenient to them.
Children, they slaughtered, they crushed their skulls, they lit them on fire, they destroyed and killed tens of thousands of children.
When Trump said Zelensky had a 4% approval,
is not expand it. And I'm sorry, but who cares if other countries desire to join NATO? That's not how we should be making these decisions. Of course, lots of countries would love to join NATO. I'm sure a huge majority of them, because yeah, you get your defense subsidized and you get protection from the most powerful government in the history of the world, the United States of America. But that's not the question. The point is, why would we want to expand NATO right up to Vladimir Putin's borders?
It was already there. It was already there. They didn't invade because of anything to do with NATO. Why do we keep spreading that talking point? 2014 wasn't in response to NATO. It was in response to Yanukovych being out. Ukraine wasn't any closer to getting in NATO in 2022 when they did the full-scale invasion. It's just a lie. There's a lot Russian talking point.
And look, the truth is that
it's not a Russian talking point at all. I mean, it's funny how they act as if they can't comprehend this, but just because NATO was already expanded to Russia's border doesn't mean that the reason why Putin invaded Ukraine can't be because of further NATO expansion to Russia's border. Maybe it's just the fact that he was trying to be cordial. And look, I am not some big Vladimir Putin simp. I'm not a guy that thinks he's not a bad person. Like, obviously he is a bad person. You can make the argument that maybe all world leaders have to make decisions that make them bad people. I don't think Putin is like, I'm not a Putin sympathizer, okay? But I do think that we have been propagandized in the United States to think that he is a lot worse, and Russia as a whole is a lot worse than they actually are. And I don't think anybody can really argue that. But just because NATO had already been on Russia's border doesn't mean that that can't possibly be the reason why Putin decided to invade Ukraine. Because that would be us expanding NATO further towards Russia's border, right? Like more coverage of Russia's border. How do they, like, I get they're pretending, but there's no way that anybody buys that Destiny can't comprehend what Dave Smith is saying. Just because NATO's touching Ukraine or Russia's border a little bit already doesn't mean that can't be a reason whenever we're trying to cover Russia's border even more for Putin to invade Ukraine. And that's not that difficult of a concept to comprehend. I don't know why they act like they can't understand it.
Expanded. It's already expanded right to Vladimir Putin's border. And if you can't, David, but Dave, again, every time I'm on with you, you accuse me of immature thinking. Granted, nothing is totally black and white, but would you not say generally over the course of history, here we go again, NATO has generally been kind of a force for good? Yeah?
No.
No, you can't say that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't agree with that. Right. I don't believe that NATO has been a force for good. I believe it's the exact type. It's the exact type of entangling alliance that our founders were unanimous in recommending that we don't get involved in. And Cenk, you can say I'm wrong, but dude, you're as anti-war as I am.
How did that? I didn't get that far in the Federalist Papers. What did our founders say about being involved in foreign nation affairs? Did we have a lot of? I don't even know. My mind is a blank there, but.
So why are you standing up for the European wing of the American Empire? You know what this is, Cenk.
Dave, he's saying we're both.
No, hold on. So listen. You're both wrong and you're both right.
Okay.
So listen. I love, first of all, just quick side note here, that nobody can tell who's left or right anymore. This is beautiful.
Do you know what? That's exactly what I was thinking.
I agree with you on this. NATO expanded, but do they have to start conflicts right away after NATO expands? Can Russia not say, we've hated this expansion, I've been waiting for a good time to react? If people were honest about it, then I would accept the argument. The reality is Russia doesn't really like NATO expansion that much, sure, but the reason why isn't because they're afraid that NATO is going to attack them. That's bullshit. They don't like it because Russia likes to rape and pillage its neighbors when it's convenient to them. And if their neighbors are in NATO, it's really hard to do that. That's why they don't want them in NATO. If people like Dave...
I don't really care, though. Like, why is Destiny acting like he cares about the morality of the situation? This man laughed. Like, do you understand how hypocritical this is? All these people are just such actors, and I'm actually getting tired of it. This man laughed at the person who got shot in the background at the Donald Trump rally and died because he said that he would laugh at anybody who went to a Donald Trump rally and got shot and died. That's not something that I just made up. That is legit what Destiny said, and he's doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on that take and said that he wouldn't take it back. He would say it again if he had to. That's wild. And that's the person that's saying, we need to stop Russia's expansion into Ukraine and all these other countries because they like to do bad things, and I'm very, morally obligated to stop Russia. Like, dude, he doesn't care about the morals of the situation. Like, let's be real. Destiny doesn't have any morals. He doesn't care about that. I don't care either. Like, I'm not going to act and pretend like I care about what happens to the countries that border Russia. I don't care. If it's not affecting me, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like, the only time that I start to care is when my tax dollars that get stolen out of my pocket go towards funding these wars and the weapons manufacturers start to profit off of me from money that I don't have a say, like money that I earned, right? And I don't have a say where it goes. That's where I start to get a little bit angry. But other than that, I understand I can't control the entire world. I can only control about what happens in my vicinity, right? What I vote for, what the area of effect that I have around me. That's all I have. So I don't understand like how Destiny's trying to play the morality game. I genuinely just don't think we should care about the morals of the situation. If Russia is saying, hey, I won't do bad things as long as you don't encroach on this right here, I think we should probably just not encroach on that thing right there, especially if it doesn't really affect us in any sort of way. Like, it doesn't positively affect us for Ukraine to join NATO. That doesn't have a positive effect on us whatsoever. It actually negatively affects us because we don't gain anything out of it, right? We don't gain anything out of Ukraine joining NATO at all. We're just going to get more tax dollars siphoned off of us to go defend a country that doesn't benefit us in any way. But regardless of that, Destiny acting like he cares about the morality of the situation is absolutely hilarious.
Shit, we're at least honest about that. He was like, well, yeah, of course Russia's really mad. They don't want NATO to have Ukraine inside of it. Then they wouldn't be able to invade Ukraine whenever they wanted to when they weren't being Belarusian enough for them. Then I'd be like, okay, well, at least he's using an honest argument now, right? Russia's not afraid of a NATO invasion. And Ukraine being in NATO or not would not be the deciding factor on if NATO could even invade. This is a retarded point. It's so stupid. I just don't like the dishonest. Just be honest about the argument.
Note here that nobody can tell who's left or right anymore. This is beautiful.
Do you know what?
American
That's
politics.
exactly what I was thinking. The whole political pendulum has completely gone crazy. Where if we had this debate 20 years ago, everyone would have known who the right are and who the left are. It is impossible anymore to define people in the way that we used to, and I like that.
I love it. I love it because we're now using our minds and independent judgment and actually talking about policy rather than strict ideology on either side. So now, look, I agree with Joe. The UN is very important. I know I'm a lone voice here these days in American media, but I 100% believe in the world working together. I think NATO is very important. I'm very supportive of NATO, and I think it has definitely been a force for good and has protected the alliance. Having said that, Dave is right. Just because you like NATO doesn't mean that NATO has to get closer and closer to Russia. I mean, Joe,
Yeah, that too. Destiny, Russia never claimed their 2022 invasion was because of Ukraine's potential NATO acceptance. Their entire premise was to denazify Ukraine and help protect native Russians within the Donbass. That's true too. Even Russia didn't use that excuse. It's like when people like Hassan will carry fucking buckets of water for Hamas, and you ask them, like, you acknowledge that, like, Hamas, they don't even fight with military uniforms, right? Like, they literally fight in civilian garb constantly. Like, people like oh fuck, I forgot that one guy's name. fucking something. Like, I remember I asked him in a debate with this. I know Hassan would never acknowledge this. Like, these guys won't even acknowledge, but was it Omar Badar? They won't even acknowledge that, yeah, Hamas fights in civilian garb constantly, sure. They don't actually wear uniforms. They won't even acknowledge that. They make up lies for Hamas that Hamas doesn't even make up for themselves. Hamas will openly say, of course, we fucking blended with our civilian population. Fuck you, fuck Israel. We will fight however the fuck we can. We will use human shields. I don't give a fuck. Like, Hamas says this, and then people...
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Well, the West will try to say, well, they're not actually doing that. Russia, there was that whole thing that leaked on accident of like that weird thing where Ukraine and Russia were did he say kindred spirits? I don't remember, but where Putin talked about like we're common souls or common spirits, or whatever bullshit from we have a long and rich history together. Like, even they weren't citing NATO expansionism at the beginning. So why the fuck are these losers doing it?
Saying that if you like NATO, then you should be for NATO expansion. How about if NATO said, okay, we'd like to expand into Chechnya in the middle of Russia? That's mental. That doesn't help the alliance. It hurts the alliance. It makes our job of defending both Europe and America harder, not easier. If we go and randomly put Taiwan in NATO, that makes no sense. So we've got to be judicious about who we put into NATO. And then now...
Hey, Chechnya is a province in Russia, right? Is it considered like a semi-autonomous... But that's like part of Russia, no? Like, I don't know how that's okay.
When we get back to, okay, NATO and America and Russia, the opposite side, have to get to an agreement, and that's good. We're all going to save money. We're all going to get to peace. We're going to save lives. We have to get to an agreement. But back to the negotiation. If two companies are having trouble getting to an agreement and they bring me in as a mediator, and then instead of helping them get to an agreement, I go, now I want money for my company. Well, that doesn't help the negotiations at all. It makes the mediation and the negotiation much more difficult, because now you've entered a third party in there that had no business there, and he's demanding like some outrageous number, and then he starts attacking the people who brought him into the negotiation. Just so, look, we all want to get to peace, protect NATO without encroaching on Russia.
But Cenk, it makes no sense to see America as the neutral negotiator in that. Like, we're not coming into a deal to broker a peace. We are the other side of the negotiating table. Ukraine would have had to do whatever Russia wanted to do if we didn't give them a blank check. So it's just not exactly
a blank check, motherfucker. Are you serious? What would it have averaged out to? What, like...
Dude, yes, we did. Have you seen the amount of money that the Biden administration sent to Ukraine? And also the amount of money that they accidentally sent to Ukraine, you know, and accidentally did a whole lot of other things too. Like the money that just disappears from the Pentagon that they just don't know where it went. Oh, I have no idea. Maybe in the pockets of the weapons manufacturers, or maybe in Nancy Pelosi's pocket. I don't know. It's in somebody's pocket though. Yeah, they did. It might not have been a blank check, but it was, you know, maybe like $100 trillion or something, some number that I can't even fathom in my brain of how much money we sent to Ukraine. And then outside of just money, you know, the weapons and the tanks and the rockets and like, yeah, bro, it's maybe not a blank check, because I'm sure he's going to use the semantics argument, but pretty damn close, man. Pretty damn close. Yeah.
$80 billion worth of combined aid per year. That's a blank check. A blank check. What did we spend in Afghanistan? It was north of $1 trillion, wasn't it? I don't even know what the fuck we spent our money on over there. It was north of $1 trillion, wasn't it? How much total U.S. spend in Afghanistan?
What does that have to do with anything at all? What does Afghanistan have to do with this situation at all? I'm sure if you asked Dave Smith, hey, do you support what we did in Afghanistan? He would say, no, not really. You know, like Afghanistan has nothing to do with anything. It's irrelevant, because all the people who are anti-war, well, all the people who are consistently anti-war, because there's a lot of people like conservatives and even Destiny himself. I mean, he'll argue with Dave Smith on this one, but then when, you know, it's different in the Middle East, and a lot of people, they'll be anti-war on the right wing, right? Like they'll agree with Dave Smith here on Ukraine and Russia and say, yeah, we need to pull out of Ukraine. Like, I'm anti-war. I don't think we should be involved in this war. And then in the Middle East, they're like, no, we must defend Israel at all costs. We must spend every last dollar, every last person that we have. We must send it all to Israel. It doesn't make any sense. But the people who are consistently anti-war, like Dave Smith, they'll be just consistent across the board and say, yeah, I don't agree with what we did in Afghanistan either. I don't think that was right.
Oh my goodness. Watson Institute for International Public Affairs, forever reliable they are. Since invading Afghanistan in 2001, the United States spent $2.313 trillion, which includes operations in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
analogous. I mean, look, again, I think
but Dave, I agree with you on that. But then why are we attacking our own ally? That doesn't make any sense at all. Well, other than the mineral rights, lithium is in the batteries in Tesla, just in case you don't know.
Well, this is
just how Trump negotiates. This is how Trump negotiates.
Also, I mean, never underestimate the fact that we are dealing with Donald Trump here, and if you said something to piss him off, he is petty enough
on that
to
point,
then go around and attack you for a couple weeks.
You know what? On that very point, there was
it's
a report,
about the money.
Well, there was a report in the Financial Times actually overnight, right to that point, Dave, which was that apparently Zelensky, when he was first told that the Americans wanted $500 billion worth of minerals, lost his rag so spectacularly with whichever American official was relaying this information. You could hear his voice apparently screaming down the corridors, and that presumably got relayed to Trump, who already has a bit of a bad feeling about Zelensky, going right back to when he first came into power and the whole thing with Hunter Biden and everything else. And Trump is, he does take stuff very personally. I always say he's got the thickest skin of anyone I've ever seen in public life, soaking up stuff that would kill anybody else. But he also has the thinnest. And
how does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think he has thin skin at all. I think it's more just like he holds grudges. He takes note of when people do him wrong, and he's not going to show it publicly that he's upset about it, but he will make sure that he gets his get back. It's as simple as that. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole Destiny versus Dave Smith situation. In my opinion, Dave Smith not only cooked this entire panel here on Piers Morgan, but also destroyed Destiny's entire worldview. And also Destiny did a pretty bad job at defending his worldview. It's just so inconsistent. It's hard to win an argument and win a debate whenever your worldview is just so inconsistent. Like I was saying with a lot of conservatives as well, when they're be anti-Russia. And I know that you're going to say, it's not the same situation. It's not the same situation. And I understand. It's not the same exact situation, right? The country names are different, but it's the same situation in that Ukraine siphons money and resources from America and provides nothing in return. And that country that you guys love so much over in the Middle East that I can't even say their name enough, or as much as I want to, because it's just not allowed, they do the same thing. Like, what do they provide in return? Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole Destiny versus Dave Smith situation.